Welcome to the KBB Review podcast. I'm Andy Davies and I'm not in my loft. I've actually been let out of the house on a kind of KBB industry day release programme to come to the Belfry Hotel in the Midlands for the annual KBSA Conference. The conference itself has just wrapped up and it's as if we planned it. I've just bumped into Trevor Scott, Liz PJ and Nick Warrington. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Fancy meeting you here. No Justine today. Hello Justine, if you're listening. She couldn't be here, but as Meatloaf said, after adjusting for inflation, 3 out of 4 ain't bad. Thanks, Trev. But so let's start, I think, with a quick gauge of the mood a bit. You've got a lot of independent retailers all in one place here. What vibe have you picked up about confidence, how everyone's doing, that kind of thing? Trevor, how about you? You know lots of people here.
Well, the general air has been one of quiet confidence as opposed to exuberance, which is that it's still been another tough year, but there are pockets of success and most people are feeling a lot more confident moving forward now.
So I think overall people have been relatively happy and with the result of this year against last year anyway. Things could be better, but then I think everyone seems to be feeling the same.
Yeah, the vibe I've been getting, Nick, is that lots of people said to me, yeah, but it's been rubbish, but the last 6 months have kind of picked up a bit. That seems to be the general summation I'm hearing. Are you getting the same kind of thing?
Yes, exactly that. I think there's a lot of people who say, yeah, we're not exactly sort of ripping up trees, it's not fantastic, but then when we look at the numbers, actually the numbers seem to suggest things are actually okay and not as bad as you may well think.
How much of it is confidence, is genuinely confidence? I think you just get the feeling that perhaps people are a little bit more, maybe it's just resolute to what the hell's going on, but it just feels there's a little bit of vibe of confidence in the room today. But this is something we can discuss in a second, but I don't necessarily think how representative this is as a cross-section of the industry as a whole, but we'll come to that in a second. What I wanted to talk about while we're here is something that came up, I think, through lots of the sessions that we sat through today, and that's whether this industry actually works together in some way, whether there is some kind of collaboration or brain trust or some kind of idea that everyone is working together towards common goals. And we've had presentations on charging for design, for example, or whether you should have finance. And the solution that lots of people keep saying on all these things is we need to get together and we need to sort this out. So Liz, let's start with you. You've been to lots of these things. Do retailers collaborate well with each other? Is that a thing?
In these events, yeah, but then we all go back to normal life and stuff happens that we can't foresee or what we can foresee, and it all goes out of the window. So there's no kind of consistency in that at all. But yeah, while you're here and you've got that positive attitude and enthusiasm, I think there seems to be people who want to do that, but achieving it is, like gold dust.
What do you think, Trevor?
Well, I mean, I'm a great advocate for collaboration, and this really started to come through strongly during COVID, when there were many different groups with Zoom conference calls between multiple dealers, and all of a sudden you started to feel a lot less lonely and a lot less sort of narrow-minded and narrow-focused and very protective about your own little world. In my own involvement within the business now is such that I'm doing a lot of this kind of stuff, but back at the showroom it's blinkers on, heads down, the rest of the world doesn't exist.
So Nick, do you feel that you're part of a wider industry when you come to things like this, that there is some kind of momentum carrying everybody forward, or is it just lots of independent businesses all in a room at the same time?
I think it's interesting because, going back to what Liz was saying, is that when you're in the business, you do feel very isolated. So for me, one of the reasons I'm here is to meet some other people and exchange a few ideas, and actually it's good to just share the pain with other people and see that there's a lot of other people experiencing just the same issues that you are, and sometimes that's where you can identify that perhaps a little bit more collaboration would go a long way within the business, because you don't necessarily recognise that there is the common ground that is actually there when you start talking about it like we have today.
I mean, certainly, a role that I think the KBSA can fulfil, if they get their act together over it correctly, is collective bargaining in a sense, which that as a group of specialists, a member of a specialist association, there's a lot that they can bring to the table to raise awareness within the buying public, which isn't really, it's been talked about in part, but it's never really happened yet. And I certainly think that's an area that they can improve on and work together with us all as independent retailers to create a brand identity that is the independent.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what this is all about. There's the exchange of information bit. So there's the idea of sitting in a group like this and saying, well, what do you do about that? And here's a problem we've got. What do you think? But I think a lot of the bigger issues seem to come back to this idea of they need to do something about it, or we collectively need to do something about it, but no one really knows what the we is. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. As you pointed out before, there's no industry, so there's nothing that technically, so there's nothing that kind of pulls us together. Honestly, I'm just rambling because I need to process that question a bit more.
I think that the we here at this conference is a narrower we than the market as a whole. So, I've sat there today listening to a lot of people talking about how their practices are all design-led. And there are lots of independent kitchen businesses out there where, yes, they do design, and design is a part of the service that they provide, but it's not just the design that they use as the tool for selling their business. And whereas I think when you come here, there are a lot more people who do consider themselves designers and do consider themselves to be sort of, if you like, in that upper echelon of the kitchen industry, and don't want to consider themselves as salespeople. They want to consider themselves first and foremost as designers.
I suppose part of it is there are overriding issues that affect this industry. Let's carry on calling it that. And let's use this as an example, charging for design. I've written and talked about charging for design for over 20 years. The debate has not moved on in any way, and we've talked about it on a panel session today. Part of the reason is everyone's looking for a standardised answer to the question that is entirely individual.
I think Lindsay's point, who was on the panel, of it's not a case of do we charge for design, it's at what point, and taking bite-sized steps towards standardising something, which could be slightly variable, is probably the most progressive way of doing it, because you can't just turn a switch on or off. You need to change people's mindsets as well and make them feel comfortable for asking that and build a value within themselves. So when people come to start with us and we talk about how we stage it and charge for a fee, they can feel very uncomfortable. But once they've done it a few times and they've seen other people discuss the fee, they see more value, they see that they're not going to get a poor reaction and are more confident in doing so themselves.
Who do you think is responsible for setting those standards?
I think it has to come down to us as retailers, because the drive for not being charged was from national companies and we've all fallen in suit. Whereas if we can somehow collectively, or a large amount of people, stand together to then make a charge and make a change, that's the only way it's going to happen. It has to be.
Well, I suppose that's the point of this, isn't it? So let's set an example. If the KBSA said we're going to set up a working committee of half a dozen retailers who are going to decide upon the standard for charging for design of whatever that structure might be, and all KBSA members have to use that, what if you don't agree with it?
So why not have a tiered system? Why not have KBSA bronze, silver and gold, for example, members? And if you're in the gold, this is what you're going to get, because it depends on the service and the products and the values that each company is going to offer. So if you're comparable to those people in the national realm that are offering free service, then that's great. But if you're also doing lighting, flooring, decorating, internal doors, wall removals, interior architecture, building, painting, you're not comparable. You're not offering a comparable service when you start. So why should you be offering a comparable fee?
I promise we will do an episode on charging for design at some point in the future, but I suppose the whole point of this is who decides on these things? Who is leading any kind of solutions to issues like this? Or is it just a group of people in a room all chatting amongst themselves?
Well, I think this comes down to what are the KBSA for? What are they about? It's a lovely conference. It's great to meet all these people, but where are the teeth? What as an organisation are they setting out as a set of standards that define our industry at the specialist end of the market? And at the moment, I don't see anything. Now, I don't mean to say that shouldn't happen and that is going to happen. It's just, I don't see it being there at the moment. But it's been something a lot of people have grumbled about in the background about the KBSA in the past. This is a great club to be a member of, but where are the teeth?
But is that not a question, though, Nick, of strength in numbers? The KBSA is a certain size, but actually, and it's the only organisation there is, but it is actually a very small percentage of the overall kitchen and bathroom specialist market, and therefore it doesn't really have enough of a momentum to be able to push through ideas that everyone's got to kind of back along. We're in the middle of the party conference season, for example, at the moment. This isn't a party conference. This isn't voting on whatever the policy on this, that and the other is. Is it just a case of you're never going to get that kind of momentum because independent businesses simply don't really like joining together in that way? They don't like being told what to do they?
They don't, and I think the other problem is that there is a lot of diversity within the membership. And going back to what I was saying before, I don't think that the attendance here is necessarily completely representative of the wider membership of the KBSA. Take me, for example. I've probably got a completely different opinion on charging for design because I'm more mid-market, where I am coming up against the sheds in terms of the people coming through my door compared to some of the people in there who are being concerned about their £800,000 kitchens.
We come up against the sheds. I think that it's naive to think that people don't, because where do you start? You have to start somewhere.
Charging for design, though, this kind of my point, is that's entirely an individual issue. It's how you decide to structure it, which is right for your business. But to have an overriding guideline, I think people just want, is it about reassurance that what they're thinking of doing is something that everyone else is thinking of doing?
Yeah, it's fear. What stops people is fear. This wasn't about charging for designs, remember? It's fear that you're going to lose to down the road. But I'm going to use Lindsay as an example. She's 8 miles down the road to us. I don't think we've ever come up against her. We might have done very recently once, but they're taking that step. So why not just have a relationship with the people around you? I don't want to be stealing from good independent retailers. I don't want to be fighting down to the last penny in the profit against them. I want us to respect each other and make ourselves different and offer more and help grow the industry. And that means that you need to leave yourself vulnerable, which people aren't comfortable with.
Yes, that's true. Is collaboration, Trevor, anathema to independence? You know, you are a proud independent business, as everyone here is a proud independent business. Does collaboration kind of grate against that?
Well, to coin an old saying, Groucho Marx, I don't want to be a member of a club that'd have me as a member. And within an independent-based industry where we're all diverse individuals that are set our market stall out to sell our goods the way that we want to, it's the reason why we did it in the first place. We didn't want to be part of a corporate body. So to then collective bargain a set of limited parameters that we've got to work within actually becomes quite restrictive. So how you manage that process and control what elements can work for everybody is incredibly difficult. Probably why it's not being done successfully up to now.
Is Liz right, Nick? There's a fear of committing yourself to something that you feel might be outside of the norm. You want everyone else to do the same thing, but that way it doesn't feel like it's as big a mistake if it all goes wrong.
Well, yes, because it's a lower risk step to take. If everybody's doing it, then you don't feel that the same risk is there, and that the fear is that, yes, I'm going to take this step, and that's, you know, there's quite a few things we've talked about today in terms of collaboration, but you're going to take this step and you're going to take this risk, and other people don't take it, and that was a misstep and it costs you money, and ultimately we're all here, despite the perhaps the focus on design today, chat about design, but at the end of the day, underlying that is a desire to make a profit at the end of the year, and so that is what drives things. And I think to some extent it's easier to come here to the KBSA conference and talk to people who are not, perhaps Liz accepted, who aren't on your patch, as it were. You can have a lot more open conversations with people who you perhaps don't feel are your direct local competition, and learn some new things in conversation there than some people are prepared to do in the local market, where you might not get together with 3 other independents in the town and all chat about your sales process and your customer journey and how you close a deal and what finance you offer and all that sort of stuff.
I suppose my frustration with it all, being an observer of this whole thing like I am, is that nothing ever really changes as a result. Everyone's constantly waiting for everyone else to do something, and therefore nothing ever happens. And that, weirdly, that is anathema to independent retailers who, because they own their own businesses, make snap decisions and they can move quickly and they can be flexible and all those things. But there's just certain issues where people are calling for a collaboration that's, frankly, in my opinion, never ever going to happen.
Do you not think there's some incremental change happening? I mean, I missed last year's conference, but I was at the conference the year before that, and I think there was conversation about charging for design then, and 2 years further down the line, I feel like there was a bit more momentum in the room for people seeming to validate each other that charging for design, at least at one end of the market, is something that should be looked at and should be progressed, and that people are, even if there isn't an industry consensus to do that people are taking this decision to do that themselves anyway.
What you have seen lately, actually, in terms of collaboration, is the sort of growth in franchise operations, for example, buying groups as well. There's obviously a rise in that, and all that is all about collaboration, isn't it? I mean, that's the whole sort of point of it, is that there is a sort of strength in numbers.
Well, yes. We're members of DeCrice, one of the buying groups, and there is a collective bargaining attributed to that, which gives us increased buying power with some of our suppliers. So open the doors to new suppliers that we haven't used in the past that we perhaps wouldn't have done if it hadn't have been for our membership of that particular buying group. Likewise, as you know, we did get involved with one of the franchise groups for our latest kitchen showroom. As it turned out for us, we chose to part company with them, but there was a reason why we did it, and it's because of the collective nature of working under the umbrella of a singular brand and the power of the marketing that you get from being associated with a singular brand that's got traction. So I could see the value of it. It's just whether or not, as an independent, one that's been well established, you then feel whether you're being hamstrung by that association. And that very, very strongly, I'm afraid, was our view, that we felt our hands were being tied behind our back too much, and it was limiting our independence, which was something we'd had for 30 years without the beer.
I mean, this is the balances, isn't it, all the time? There's a compromise on either side, isn't it? You're always going to compromise your independence by getting in with a group of people, whether that's a buying group or a franchise or anything else. But do the pros outweigh the cons? You're not in a buying group, are you?
We're part of DeCrice, but that's it doesn't really work in the same way as a buying group. It's just kind of incidental for us more than anything, and it's only because we're KBSA members that we did that anyway, because of the terms that they've given. We wouldn't have gone down that route otherwise. It's hard. I think the industry has changed over the last 20 years massively in terms of kind of the collaboration in the viewpoint and being more open and just sharing as a whole. I think it's positive. I think there's more drive towards it. At least here, there are definitely other places where I've gone and I've felt complete contrast.
Do we think the franchise model is almost an indicator of what the KBSA could do for independence, though, in terms of going back to Trevor's point of the fact that we are all independents, but could the KBSA as an organisation become a more public voice for advertising those businesses that are members of the KBSA, and so that the membership of being a member of the KBSA almost has a little bit more kudos and visibility than it does to the general public at the moment? Because I don't necessarily feel that being a member of the KBSA, for most of the customers that come through my door, that they're not coming through my door because I'm a member of the KBSA.
The answer to that is there was the love to do that.
It's vital.
It's critical mass, though, isn't it?
Towards it, though, because otherwise there's no other point. There's the financial side of it.
Yeah.
But if you take the other big name, they're hard sells to get into that kind of group, whereas this isn't. And there's going to be any action from the KBSA, if there's going to be anything of any real value or benefit, there has to be. But there has to be people who are prepared to give some of their time, expert, shared knowledge and resources in order to help move that forward, because they don't make enough money to do it.
Yeah, there are sort of levels of it. Yeah.
I mean, if the KBSA came to me and said, look, give us 250 quid, and who joins the party gives us 250 quid, we're going to put an advertising campaign together that lists all of you as dealers and says, buy a kitchen or a bathroom from a KBSA member. And then I'd give them the 250 quid. But nobody's come to me and asked me that yet.
And I would as well.
I would.
But there's always going to be compromise in all of these things. You've got to, as members, you've got to agree to go along with the things that you don't want to do as much as the things that you do want to do. Otherwise, the whole system breaks down. So they might decide on some guidelines for, I don't know, taking deposits or something, or deposit protection or whatever it might be, and you might not want to do it. But you've got to, because remember, that's the compromise you might have to do.
Well, we never joined the KBSA when the deposit protection scheme was a prerequisite as part of the deal of membership. It's like, I don't want to be told what deposit size I've got to take in order to be a member of this association. So we just never joined.
Yeah.
It's only after that got sacked off eventually and becomes an optional purchase, a buy-in, that we joined the association, and we chosen not to buy into the deposit protection scheme.
But I suppose my point is, what do you make a terms and conditions of membership? So you're right with that, say, 250 quid scheme that you just talked about. Well, what if somebody goes, I just don't want to?
Then it's down to the critical mass again, isn't it? You know, I mean, as an association, all they can do is throw ideas at the membership, and if the membership reject them, then it's like, what do you want us to do? You know, you want us to be proactive, you want us to be creative in our thinking. We put ideas on the table for you, and then you reject them.
And that's the hard part of it, is persuading people that there's going to be some things they don't like, and they've got to go along with them too. Let's pick up on the thing that you just talked about there, Nick, about collaboration, which is collaboration with other businesses in your locale actually much more important than the collaboration of, quote unquote, the industry? Is it better to know all the businesses down your high street, figuratively or literally, and understand how they work and get them to help each other, like local networking groups or the local, I don't know, the Rotary Club or whatever it might be?
I think for me, if I think about the collaboration that I have in my local area, my collaboration is not with other KBB retailers, it's with architects, builders, tradespeople, and that is my network, and that is the collaboration that I have. And for me, that collaboration is absolutely vital to my business. If you look at the way I generate my business, you know, my social media profile is almost non-existent, and you know, we derive a certain amount of leads from that, but we are still very much a referral and recommendation based independent business. And there's lots of independents like me out there, small independents, who still live and thrive on that network.
And that's the idea, isn't it? You are local businesses rather than feeling part of the kitchen industry, and that's much more important. I mean, you must work an awful lot with local.
Well, we work, clearly we work with a lot of local trades and architects, specifiers, designers, interior designers and such like, that they're food and drink to us, you know, without collaborations with these people.
But are there organisations? Is there like a rugby business?
Well, we've tried breakfast clubs and things. In the FSB, we're a member of the FSB, but we don't go to any of the meetings. And we've tried breakfast clubs with various organisations that will remain nameless. And you know, all you find there's a group of leeches that are trying to flog you insurance or accountancy services, and it's like, for Christ's sake, I want to deal with people that actually want to buy a dozen kitchens to go in the block of flats they're building. I don't want to be sold insurance.
You do all kind of services. Do you collaborate, I don't know, with the local lighting retailer, the local curtain shop, or the...
So yesterday morning I went to see an interior designer because we no longer have someone to work with for blinds or reseating or cushions or something. So we that's work we're not going to get into doing ourselves, so we need to have that collaboration. Apart from that, we don't. But what I think I've learned from going to different events and meeting some of my direct competitors is that it's really important, and when times get hard, it's nice to know that you can pop into the showroom down the road and just go, are you feeling it too? Huh. And this is something that I think is unusual, but there's 4 or 5 dealers quite locally to me that I would quite happily walk into, have a cup of coffee, have them into ours. There's one that I wouldn't, I'll be honest. And then there's all the others in between that I don't know much about, but being able to do that, and also if you're up against them, you can go, oh, you know, so down the road, yeah, lovely, they do this, don't they? So, oh, these are the differences between the products. Make a proper informed decision. You're not going to go wrong whichever one you go for, and you can make it a much more pleasant and sincere, to some extent, environment for your clients as well. And the way your clients react to you knowing them is really lovely as well.
Yeah, and that's a direct, clear benefit of collaboration, isn't it? And everyone kind of mutually benefits from the whole thing. It's great, and I suppose I feel a little bit that's what misses from. It's not the fault of the KBSA. They work very hard, and they've changed it an awful lot in the last few years, particularly with Rich at the helm. But you know, the critical mass to make the kitchen industry different, that's the bit that's missing for me. And there's been talks in the past about Kitchen Manufacturers Association or the Bathroom on the other side, the Bathroom Manufacturers Association has just become the Bathroom Association because they want to be much more collaborative with all parts of that chain. But it's just so hard to get anybody to sort of agree on what that actually means. It's just all, and I suppose that's what's missing is a definition of what the point of it all is, over and above just talking it through with people and feeling that you're not alone. Talking shop, which is really useful, but how do you solve problems like charging for design or who charges for finance without some kind of central body to do so?
When you start talking about collaborations and going and working in partnership with associated businesses that are in your locale, there's a great curtain and window blind company that we've known for best part of 30 years, and we have a symbiosis with them. There isn't the same situation with the lighting company, unfortunately. I wish there was. But I remember the first time I went over to Bora to their head office showroom, the one that's on the Spiral, and the collaborative businesses that all circulated around that showroom that eventually ended up at the core kitchen showroom on the ground floor. And you had the fire company, you had the double glazing company, you had the blinds company, you had the bathroom company, and it was like everything under one roof. All independent businesses, and you could be buying one product from one of them, or you could be buying a collected group of products from a number of them, and you didn't have to go anywhere else.
Well, Chelsea Design Harbour's like that.
Is it? I've never.
Yeah, but that's very much a professional design shopping centre. You want a better way of talking about it. Obviously, anybody can go in there, but it is that sort of collective group of there's lots of different people in one place. I suppose just to draw this confusion, because we're not going to solve any problems as we normally don't. But would you encourage other retailers to get involved with an organisation like the KBSA, even if they think, because until it gets some kind of critical mass, it's not going to achieve industry-wide change, but people don't want to join because it doesn't achieve industry-wide change. So would you encourage people to do it, Liz?
Yes, because the only way that you can impact it is by being in the room. You can just complain about it by not being a part.
Having said on Groucho Marx, yeah, absolutely. And the fact that they've managed to fill this much larger conference suite this year compared to last year's event and the years prior to that I've attended, it says that there is traction, there is momentum. And, as we know with the J curve, it's very slow to start, then it starts picking up momentum. Maybe we're at that point and we're starting to see the curve of the J.
I certainly hope so. And the more members to join, Nick, the more you could have different factions within that membership that are much more reflective of each individual type of business.
Absolutely. And I think, when I sat there today, I'm a very small independent business, and there's a lot of larger businesses in the room. But I think, for me being a member, one of the good things being here is if you're aspiring to grow your business, if you've got a smaller business and you're looking to grow, it's really good to be in the room and see that people are taking a small independent business and growing it and making it a success. And it does give a certain amount of positivity that there is a path there beyond disorganized chaos at times. So
yes, I think the answer that we can solve a problem here today, which is if you want to charge for design, do it, and if you don't want to charge for design, don't do it. And that it's entirely up to you. And let's just leave it there. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.